All right, everyone, let's talk about farming gold in Lost Ark. And when I say farming gold, I'm talking tens of thousands of gold per week. At the start, this is actually going to be upwards of 3,000 to 4,000 gold per hour. I'm not talking about like a little trick that you can only do once or twice for a couple hundred or 1,000 gold. This is something that you can reliably do each and every week and get lots of gold in return. So I want to explain this very carefully, though, because there is a particular system that I'm going to explain to you guys, and a system that you want to use to make sure that you get the most gold per hour from doing this. And if you butcher it and do it incorrectly, it's going to feel like a massive waste of your time. So you really don't want to mess this up. And I'm going to explain everything, so don't worry. I'm going to try not to get too far ahead of myself. Now, this system and what we're actually going to be doing is something that you're probably already familiar with. It's going to be involving your chaos dungeons, but specifically it's going to involve your infinite chaos dungeons. These are the runs that you do after your 2 daily runs when you've already used your aura of resonance. And in your infinite chaos dungeon runs, once you've got your daily loot from your 2 entries, you're going to end up getting these materials, these shards, and then these purple ones, and then for the respective tier that you're obviously in. And I want to talk a bit about the Infinite Chaos Vendor, because you're probably already familiar with the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 Infinite Chaos Vendor, but there is something very important and very tricky that happens in the Tier 3 Vendor that you need to be very careful of. It's both a good thing and a bad thing, and this is where I said if you do this incorrectly, it's going to be really easy to just end up wasting a lot of your time, and that is the Tier 3 Vendor. Now, in the Tier 1 and 2 vendor, you have all of your normal stuff, your stones, destruction and guardians, or leap stones, or life shard bags, and these all have weekly limits. So I could buy like 25 bundles of these destruction stones, 75 bundles of these guardian stones. Nothing super tricky. Once I get to my maximum, that's it. I have to wait for the weekly reset, and all of this stuff is bound. So whatever character that I end up purchasing it on, that's the character that it's going to be stuck on. So that's how it works in the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 Infinite Chaos Vendor. But the thing is, all of this goes out the window and changes as you get Tier 3. And I want to explain this carefully because at first glance, if you're not familiar with the Tier 3 Infinite Chaos Vendor, this looks like the biggest loot pinata ever because you have weekly roster limits of 99 for all of this stuff, and the prices look very, very low. But the way that this actually works is, first of all, everything here is unbound. It's actually tradable, and you can end up selling this on the market. So we're going to be able to use this system, and if we use it properly, we're going to be able to make quite a bit of gold doing this. But the thing is, what you have to be careful of is that as you actually keep purchasing stuff in the Tier 3 Infinite Chaos Vendor, the price is actually going to keep going up. So if we take this Honor Leapstone, for example, the first one here is going to end up costing 100 of these shards of purification. But now if I end up buying 2 of them instead of 1, you're going to see that the second one costs more than 100 shards of purification. If it was the same cost, this number here, this purchase cost, it would say 100 shards of purification for 1, 2 would be 200 shards of purification, 3 would be 300 shards of purification, and so on and so forth. But you can see here that it starts off at 100 shards of purification, and then if I try to buy 2 of them, it goes up to 230 shards of purification. So that first Honor Leapstone costs 100 of these shards, but the second one actually costs 130. And we can do the same thing. If we go up to 3, you're going to see that it goes up to 400. So these costs do start to dramatically go up here. So the difference between the 2 and the 3 Honor Leapstones, it goes from 230 to 400 of these shards of purification. So that third one now costs us 170 of these shards, whereas the very first one costs you 100. And this is a trend that you can observe across all the stuff here. All these weekly roster limits, you're never going to get to all 99 of them because by the time that you get a decent way through these weekly roster limits, the price of these items is going to end up being so high that it's not going to be worth the time to actually do your infinite chaos to farm the shards in order to buy the stuff. But the key is, though, where is it worth it? At what point is it actually worth going through and farming your infinite chaos and getting these shards and buying this stuff? Because we can actually end up putting this stuff up on the market. And it turns out that it's not that hard to actually find out. And I'm going to share with you guys some numbers here, and I'm going to tell you guys an important little rule of thumb that you want to follow going forward in the future, because I always hesitate sharing exact numbers in videos because people watch videos at different times. You know, stuff on YouTube, like I might upload this at some point in March, but people are going to be watching this video probably the middle of the year, or maybe even in December, or maybe even next year in 2023. And so when I give exact numbers, obviously the price of stuff on the market is going to be different depending on when you're watching the video. So instead of telling you like exactly how many to buy, I still will give you guys a general idea of like how many it's worth it. But instead of doing that, I'd rather have you guys learn the knowledge to do this yourself, so that if you guys are watching the video at a time where prices are going to be a lot different, or if you guys play in a region where the prices are way different than like what I'm sharing with you guys here, you'll be able to actually do this yourself instead of just having to listen to the exact numbers that I tell you to buy, because that's obviously more important. You want to know kind of how to do this yourself. And basically, the general rule of thumb here is what we want to do is, first of all, we want to look up like what each of these items is actually selling for. So if I were to buy one of these honor leapstones for 100 shards of purification, how much gold would that end up selling for on the market? And if we just go to leapstones here, you can see that an honor leapstone right now is like 279, 300-ish gold. Let's just use 300 for simplicity's sake, just so you guys understand this example here. So if I can sell an honor leapstone for 300 gold, and this first one ends up costing me 100 shards of purification, what you want to do as a general rule of thumb for all of your items is you want to find that ratio. You want to find how much gold do you get in return for every single one of your shards of purification. And if we know that this honor leapstone is going to sell for 300 gold and it's costing 100 shards of purification, that means that I'm spending 100 shards of purification for 300 gold. And so I'm getting a 1 to 3 ratio of shards to gold. I'm getting 3 gold for every one of my shards of purification. Now, that's really, really good. That's an incredibly good ratio. And if you actually go and you do your infinite chaos, this is a little over an hour or so of me doing infinite chaos. You could probably get, depending on your speed, how much attention you're paying, I'd say between 1,500 and 2,500 of these shards of purification per hour. Let's just go with 2,000 just to use as a nice even number here. So at a ratio of 100 shards of purification for 300 gold, that means that at an hourly rate, 2,000 shards of purification in an hour would end up giving me 6,000 gold. Now, the thing is, though, we know, of course, that it's not that easy, because if I end up buying a bunch of these, the price is going to start to go up. So we're obviously not going to end up getting that same 3-to-1 ratio. This is why it's really, really important with this strategy to not buy a bunch of the same item. And what you actually want to do is you want to keep your items kind of evenly distributed. So instead of buying like 5 to 10 of these honor leapstones, I would buy one of these, and then I would buy maybe one of another item, and then one of another item. And what your overall end goal is to try to keep all of these gold to shard of purification ratios the same. So I want to buy all of my items that are really, really good right now. Like if I find an item that has a 3-to-1 ratio of 3 gold for 1 shard of purification, I want to buy all the items that have that really good ratio. But as soon as I buy a couple of these, that really good ratio of 3 gold per 1 shard of purification is going to go away. Just a couple honor leapstones later, it's now like, 1 gold per 1 shard of purification. So then what you do is you move on to the next item and you basically do the same thing. So for these great honor leapstones, you can see that it's 130 shards of purification for the first one. And if we look up great honor leapstones, this one's actually probably going to be a little bit better. Almost 600 gold for one of these. Let's just say 600 to make it really simple for the example. If each of these is selling for 600 gold, you're actually getting an even better ratio of gold to purification shards. So this would actually take a priority. I would actually want to buy this first before I start buying any honor leapstones. You always want to buy the items that have the highest gold to shard of purification ratios, and then move on to items that have lower ratios. So we found a new best item, right? This is our new best item. For 130 shards of purification, we're going to get about 600 gold. So we now have a 4-to-1 ratio. So we would actually end up buying this. We'd probably buy a couple of these before we then start buying any of the honor leapstones. And then we would do the same for the other items, like the honor shard pouches. Let's just look at one more item, and then I'll tell you guys the approximate numbers that I have. But again, these numbers are obviously going to be a little bit different depending on when you guys are watching the video and what region you're in, but you can get a general sense. So if we go to honor shard bags, you can see here, these are like 400 gold each right now. So this item is not nearly as good of a ratio. We're looking at a cost of 500 of these shards of purification, it's going to get me about 400 gold. So already, even without buying any of these, it already has a less than 1-to-1 ratio. I'm getting less than 1 gold for each shard of purification. So I want to completely stay away from this item until I've actually bought a decent amount of leapstones and great honor leapstones. And then once my great honor leapstones and leapstones have fallen below like a 1-to-1 ratio of gold to purification shards, then I would start buying these honor shard pouches. So at the end of the week, we would actually have purchased less honor shard pouches in total because they start off at a worse price, if that makes sense. Now, keep in mind, though, like these solar graces here, also all this stuff is unbound. These solar blessings, When you actually buy one of these bundles, it has 7 of them. So keep that in mind. And as I give you guys the approximate numbers here, it'll make sense. So what you don't want to do is like buy a whole bunch of honor leap stones. And I'm going to tell you guys these numbers, but when you end up buying all your stuff in your shop, if I tell you that it's approximately like 10 to 15 honor leap stones is what we want to try to do throughout the week, that doesn't mean buy your 15 honor leap stones as your first purchase and then move on to the next item. You want to keep them all evenly distributed. So, you know, a couple honor leap stones, a couple great honor leap stones, a couple of, you know, solar graces, solar blessings, solar protections, and then go back and buy more. Never go all in on one item. That is how you butcher this strategy and you make it so it's absolutely not going to be worth your time. And so these numbers, it really kind of depends. Like, what is your time worth to you, right? Your stopping point is really going to be, what is the lowest amount of gold per hour that I want to spend in infinite chaos runs? And for me personally, it's approximately like 1,000 gold an hour or so, like roughly speaking, 1,000, 1,200. If I'm making less than 1,000 gold per hour farming infinite chaos, I would rather do something else. So for me, that's going to be my stopping point. Now, if your stopping point is lower than that, if you would still be happy farming 500 gold an hour in infinite chaos, you can actually go above and beyond the numbers that I'm going to tell you guys. But for me, my stopping point is approximately 1,000 gold an hour. And so the list that I'm going to give you guys is going to end up giving me approximately 40 to 50,000 gold, but it's going to take me approximately, 15 to 25 hours to actually end up getting enough shards to buy all this stuff. But that's pretty good. For almost 50,000 gold in a week, that's still averaging approximately 2,000 gold per hour, which is very good. Like, I'm super happy to make 2,000 gold an hour in infinite chaos, and that gives me almost 50,000 gold each week that I can farm when I just feel like spending time doing this. So for me, approximately, I'm going to buy about 15 of these honor leap stones each week. And again, not all at once. I'm going to basically buy these until they get to a price of about 600 each, approximately speaking. Because once we get to 600 each, that's the ratio where now I'm only getting about half a gold for each shard of purification. And that's my stopping point. My stopping point is basically half a gold per shard of purification. When I start buying items from the shop that are now giving me less than half a gold per shard, I'm done and I'm not going to be buying that item anymore. So that turns out to be about 15 of these honor leap stones, about 20 of these great honor leap stones actually, because these are even better value. And we're going to stop at about, when these get to about 1,200 shard of purifications each, only about 5 of these honor shard pouch bags because they're really not that great. They start off at a pretty bad value, so I'm going to stop these pretty early once they get to about 1,500 or so, 12 to 1,500 of these shards of purification each. We're done with these. These solar graces here, we're going to end up buying about 15 of these bundles, and it comes with 7, so that's going to end up being about 100 of these solar graces, and our stopping point is when this price gets to about 1,500 or so. These solar blessings, we're going to end up buying approximately 10 bundles of these. And again, our stopping point is going to end up being about 1,500 shards of purification each. When you look up the price of like solar blessings, remember it's a bundle of 2. So for every one of those bundles that I buy, it's actually going to give me 2 of these, which is 450 gold times 2, so like 900 gold. So our stopping point on this is going to be, approximately 10 bundles of this, 1,500 shards each. And then our solar protections here, we are also going to end up buying approximately 10 of these. So our stopping point is once again going to be about like 1,500-ish shards. The destruction and guardian stones are actually pretty good. Even the destruction stones here, they go up really, really quickly in price. Even that very first guardian crystal bundle, the price skyrocketed from 10 to 40 of these shards of purification. But for the destruction stones, I'm going to end up buying approximately 12-ish of these bundles until this number gets to about 400. Once I'm paying more than 400 shards per bundle, it's not worth it anymore. And for these guardian stones, I'm going to end up buying about 8 to 10 of these bundles. Once this price gets to about 200 of the shards of purification each, I'm done buying those and I'm not going to buy any more. And these powder of sages, actually, interestingly enough, I'm not going to buy any of those because at a starting price of 1,470 shards of purification each, if we actually look up powder of sage, you can see that they're 300 gold right now. So we're already starting off, even without buying any of those, it starts off at a ratio of like 5 shards of purification per gold, which is really, really bad. So we want to completely stay away from that item right there. And that's basically all of the stuff that you can end up selling on the market. So again, the exact numbers, I'll still give them to you guys, but more importantly is knowing how you actually do this yourself and how you come to the conclusion, because obviously when you watch the video, these numbers might be a bit different. You want to find your stopping point. At how much gold per hour is it really not worth farming infinite chaos for you anymore? And that's your stopping point. don't buy stuff anywhere past that point. So I wanted to kind of lay this information out to you guys, share this info with you, because this is definitely one of the most reliable ways to farm a very good chunk of gold each and every week in Lost Ark. So I thought you guys should know, and also know how to do it properly, because again, it's super easy to butcher it and buy all of one item in the shop and just have it be a massive waste of time. So now you guys know. I hope this video helped out. If it did and you enjoyed, consider leaving a quick like. Consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this in the future, and feel free to check out the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/salt, where I'll be streaming Lost Ark as well as other games. Thanks again, everyone. Take care, and until next time.